It is just a huge honor for me today to be podcast interviewing Dr. Lily Antoine Wakim DDS. She's graduated from the same school I did, but
Woo!
several decades later, UMKC. And oh, please, I graduated in 1987. Were you even born in
I
1987?
wasn't even born.
Oh my
I was
God! Strike
I
one.
was 6 months old when you started lecturing.
Oh my God! Oh my gosh! And she moved to Colorado Springs, where I just spent. I just went to vacation there and saw NORAD, saw the Navy Institute, and talked to the dentist down there. That was so fun because now they started Space Force down there.
Yes.
Um, she had the opportunity to work alongside some of her company's top producing dentists and specialists, in turn becoming one of the company's top doctors. After 4 years, she returned to Wichita, Kansas, because Dorothy and Toto told her to, where she joins her father and her brother in private practice. That means that her dentistry is a genetic from her father's side. Are you planning on having kids?
I would love to have kids. I would love to have a partner first.
Are you going to do genetic counseling to make sure it doesn't get that dentistry gene handed
I
down
could
from?
try. I could try to save my kid I could save my kid a headache or three.
Dr. Lilly is committed to providing patients an environment which in turn yields high case acceptance and patient retention. She has developed a course for healthcare workers looking to increase practice revenue and retention that is available at drlily.teachable.com, and that is why I brought her on this show. I just think this is so romantic. She told me for the show she just bought a house near College Hill. That's where I was born, 364 North Rutan. And it was so funny because there's only two kids in my neighborhood. You either went to Blessed Sacrament, and you were Catholic, which is like a quarter of the city, or you were them heathens that went to College Hill. And I would always stop by College Hill on the way home and to see my heathen friends. And I used to think that I was so jealous of all the heathens that got to go to College Hill because I thought they were having so much fun, more fun than Blessed Sacrament, where the nuns were pretty brutal. But yeah, I wanted to get you on the show for two very important reasons. Number one is, I always talk about all the time, but basically the slide that just irritates me the most is people always make excuses for their situation. They never look in the mirror and say,
Mhm.
well, maybe all my problems are coming from that dumbass I'm looking in the mirror. It's never that. It's always that, they did everything right. They did everything perfect, and woesy, woe. And the stat I just keep coming back is that my whole life, I graduated in 87, been out 32 years. No matter what city you go to, I mean, rich, poor, north, south, east, west, doesn't even matter. You'll find a medical dental building with about 8 dentists in there, and they all work Monday through Thursday, 8 to 5 or whatever. But one dentist, 5%, will come in every Friday and do like a $25,000 to $50,000 case, and it's the difference between the average dentist doing $750 and taking home $175, and then right next door in the same building in the same city in the same bat station and the same bat channel, this guy's doing like $1,100,000 and taking home $350. And it comes back to this: the average American will buy 13 new cars in their life between 16 and 76. So in 60 years, 13 times, they shell out $33,560. And who's buying that? Oh, just all your patients. I was at a dentist place in a small town in Kansas like a couple of years ago, Christmas, and he was telling me about that, that the Chinese and the trade war and everything's really tough in Kansas. And so I got out my little violin and started playing along with him.
No.
And then I said, hey, dude, we're sitting at a Mexican restaurant. There's only one stoplight in this town, and there's a Circle K over there. I said, how many cars are in Circle K right now? And he said, well, I don't see any cars. I said, exactly. What do you see? 7 trucks. 5 of them were F-150s. One was an F-250. So I said, why does everybody in this state that's going under and out of business and everybody's going to starve to death and die, why do they all drive $50,000 to $100,000 brand new trucks? Well, they in fact, this is the craziest thing. Since they're financing every 5 years, now the average American only holds onto their car for 4 years and a half, and then they're already under the next one. When they only offered financing for 4 years, everybody hung on to their house for like their car for like 3 years and 7 months. So the bottom line is, as soon as they they go to the dentist, and the dentist doesn't treat him as an individual with freedom and have $1 million smile. They just say, "Well, you have insurance, and we can only treat the shittiest tooth in your mouth. Which one hurts the most?" And they point to a molar, and they go, "Okay, well, if I save that with a root canal and a crown, you won't be able to get any more dentistry till the god of Delta." Gives us some more money next year. And the insurance CEOs, they're all making like $15 million a year. And then there's this one guy, and I was taught this by Omar Reed, the late Omar Reed, who passed away at the beginning of this pandemic. And I'd follow him around. He'd just look in the mouth, he'd talk, make eye contact, and before he'd look at the x-ray, he says, So what do you want to do? I mean, I could look at the x-rays, and I'm sure you need a cleaning and a cavity or two, maybe a crown or whatever. And we can do all that. And but some people just want me to take everything out and put it all brand new and leave with a $25,000 smile makeover. Which one of those are you? And you have to say it like 10 times. And 1 out of every 10 is like, yeah, oh my God, I'd love to take everything out of my mouth. And really, I'd have a movie star smile. And you got to be able to have 9 people say, oh no, I don't want to do that. And that's okay. When you walk on a car lot, the first thing they ask you, well, what kind of car payment are you looking at? If you say 200, they take you to used. If you say 400, they take you to a $30,000 car. If you say 500, it's an F-250. I mean, they just want to know, what are you doing here? And 95% of all 211,000 Americans who have a dental degree will practice their entire career, 95% of them, and never do one case for 33,560. And you, I just can't believe it. I don't know where you got this mojo, but you have drlily.teachable.com, and you have this. That's what you're into. You're into case acceptance, and I know my homies. And you say you have a course for $2,500, which the first case acceptance will be $25,000, homie.
Right.
So,
I'll walk into a room, Howard, and I'll just exactly what you said. I'll sit and I'll talk to the patient. I'll be like, what do you want to do? And she's like, well, I just got out of a divorce. I want a brand new smile. And then I'll start a $15,000 case. And I think it just comes down to really just talking to your patient and forget about insurance. Insurance, like you said, is almost like a scam, but we have to treat the patient individually and see what they actually want done. It's not just like, oh, what is your insurance going to give you?
And that's what they do. And when these divorcers get fixed up, I mean, they'll go get tummy tuck, a boob job, a facelift. It depends on their age. The first divorce has kind of been eliminated because instead of getting married at 16, they're getting married at 26. So you skip the first divorce. You just date through that one. And when they get divorced in their over 45. I mean, they're going to get a tummy tuck or a facelift or a boob job or something. And then they go to my homies, they'll go to a dentist, and they'll say, well, you have an interproximal lesion on tooth number 3 in your insurance. I mean, the only person that made insurance was a god. Was my homies. You know what I mean? I mean, they just, every patient walks in, name of the father, the son, Delta, Dental, Blue Cross, and Connecticut General. How may the insurance company help you? You're not at a dental office. You're at a church of dental insurance. And what I'm worried about is, my 4 boys were dependents on me. Now they all are gone and independent and own their own homes. And now they've made 6 dependents. And when I die, I know how this game works. When any of my grandchildren, when just one of them has a baby, I'm dead. And so I'm worried about, like, where's little Taylor and Raya Rue going to go when they go to a dentist? And if it's a dental office owned by, Kaiser Permanente in Oregon, they own 9. Well, are they? Is she going to a dental insurance company, or is she going to a dentist? If she goes to a DSO that's owned by Wall Street, I mean, is some MBA from Wall Street say, "Well, don't do an MOD, do a crown." I mean,
do a crown. Yeah, it's really disheartening to see what's out there, and it's even more disheartening to see how people don't think for themselves anymore. And like you said, like 95% of dentists are probably not going to do their big slam dunk cases, but like you said, there will be one doctor that walks in one once a week or once a month and does a $30,000 case. They forget, I think that dentists forget that we have the power to not only like fix cavities, but to change people's smiles, which also includes their emotional well-being, their happiness, their overall health. A lot of times I have to, increase bite, and it helps with TMJ, all sorts of issues. And I think that so many people are thinking that we have to refer these big cases out. But in reality, like, you're a general dentist, you have the capability to do anything that you feel comfortable with. People are now, they're scared of the dentist. They won't come in until they have something that's like completely bombed out. Then they can't pay for it. And then they continue to think the dentist is really expensive and not a fun experience. But when we shift and have the dentist be like a fun place where you get a new smile and it can be enjoyable, then it's a game changer for both the dentist and for the patient.
I agree 1,000%. So I got to get personal with you. I got to ask you. I know your dad's a dentist. Is he as old and senile as me, or is he much younger?
I think he's 63. I think I'm the crazy one though. He's always got to put me in check. Like I'm a big personality. I think it stresses him a lot, like stresses him out a little bit. But I also think that I've learned from his like discipline and having a practice for 36 years and not something I can speak to. So we've both kind of like leveled each other out, but I think I'm the crazy one, not him.
Well, the point I was getting at is, okay, so in 1976, there was a lawsuit in Phoenix. In fact, I just posted it yesterday on Dental Town. Let me find that. Yeah, I just posted this yesterday. It was I said this was the case that allowed dentists to advertise. The Supreme Court held in Bates versus State Bar of Arizona in 1977 that attorney advertising was a form of commercial speech protected by the First Amendment. What had happened is a lawyer out here in Phoenix put an ad in the Arizona Republic, and the state bar was going to take his license away and censure him because lawyers couldn't advertise. And of course, he's a lawyer. Went all the way to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said it's free speech. And I know this is controversial. You're not supposed to talk about religion, sex, politics, or violence, but there was a fundraising deal where the Supreme Court ruled the same. That let's say you're Rosie O'Donnell, and she's a lesbian woman, and say she wants to donate $1 million to her lesbian candidate. Well, everybody else like, oh no, you got to regulate that. It's only $2,500 max, and all that. And the Supreme Court said, dude, it's free speech. It's her money. Mm-hmm. And of course, I don't like how they ended up with a law where it's not transparent. So now you don't know who's giving. I think that's the only corrupt part. But if I only had one issue, and say there was one guy running for office that would make my 6 grandchildren all grow up to have grandchildren more, and the other one was going to kill them, and I had $1 million, I should be able to donate my $1 million. And so when I got out here in Arizona, I got out 10 years later in 87, and they were just starting to tiptoe into the yellow pages, which was $1,000 a month for a full page ad, and I get like 25 new patients a month because no one else would do it, because all the old guys, they would always say to me at meetings, like, well, if you had prostate cancer, would you pick an oncologist out of the yellow pages? And I'm like, dude, I said, you know what idiots use this is my only one. I say, you know what idiots use the yellow pages? And they'd say, who? And I'd say, your wife. Yeah. Let's go to your house afterwards and get me a beer, and I'm going to show you your yellow pages, and you have to drink a shot for every time your wife wrote notes in the yellow pages and bent the corners and put paper clips in it. And I mean, it looked like it, So the bottom line is just, and now the yellow pages are dead. I mean, now they're gone. But I'm just so excited that there is somebody young and new and fresh at a UMKC in the middle, and you're not in Beverly Hills where all the Kansas dentists are going to say, yeah, but they're in a rich part of the country. I'm in Kansas, and it's like, yeah, you're in Wichita, Kansas, and people in Wichita, Kansas get facelifts and tummy tucks and nose jobs and boob jobs, and you don't ever ask them. And then when you give someone a smile makeover, I mean, I'll never forget. I mean, there's one that will never ever leave my mind, and she knew she was headed for a denture, and she was absolutely headed for a denture, and she had no money, and she just hit rock bottom. And I'm such a sociopath. I was wanting to try these new implants, and I needed a little guinea pig, and I said, well, I'll tell you what. I said, I'll do your smile maker if you sign a release. And she's like, what? And did it. But anyway, long story short, When it was all done and I showed her a mirror, she had to take a knee. I mean, just to breathe. I mean,
No.
she cried. I remember one time I had tickets to the Phoenix Suns, and I was there with the only board certified orthodontist, Harry Green, that teaches general dentists. It's him and Richard Litt. No other orthodontist in America will teach low life general dentists to do this. But anyway, we were talking ortho, and she was our the lady that worked our section, and I'd see her every game, and she had just spaces between every one of those teeth, and I would just sit there and think, I don't like looking at those teeth anymore. So I just said, hey, if you used to come by my office, I'll close all those spaces for free. You need braces, and I think it'd be amazing. So I did free braces on her for the same thing, a model release form, and I mean it just changed. I mean, she went from this shy waitress that never talked, and if she ever did say something, she'd cover her mouth. And you just saw her come alive. And
that's what the beauty of our profession is. And then now you have 2 walking advertisements to your office. So I see all these people dumping money into like lead generation and marketing. And I'm like, your patients are your walking advertisements. Those 2 cases you did are going to bring you 10 more patients, like minimum. And I think people are forgetting that, and they're looking at quantity over quality. So they might shove 10 patients or like 10 new patients in a day, give them all a bad experience, and then they're never going to come back. And it's like, why are you wasting money or getting more patients in the door? Why aren't you slowing down, taking time to give each patient like that amazing, incredible experience, and then have walking advertising?
by the way, I just want to say for the record, if you're listening to this on iTunes, switch over to YouTube, because she's sitting here lecturing right next to a statue of Buddha, and here I am, a fat, short, bald guy with a big belly, and she picks the skinny Buddha with hair and a 6-pack when you could have had the big fat one with the bald head and the belly. I mean, how did you pick the skinny one? I mean, by the way, I got to see where Buddha was born when I lectured in Kathmandu. God,
That's amazing.
That is the coolest country. So your course, the go-to provider, book out months. You ought to put a teaser course of this on the online CE, because you want to know how insanely crazy my homies are. So many people, they won't take a CE course unless they're going to get CE credit for it. And
I would like to put it on CE. I mean, I would be. I think, can you help me with that? You can help me, right?
Absolutely. So I'm Howard at dentaltown.com, but the guy in charge of the online CE is Howard Goldstein at Dentaltown.
Okay.
So I'm Howard at Dentaltown, and he's Hogo. And my gosh, but this is my big thing that I've been working on. Is the dentists say things like, they'll say, well, you know, I'm not a salesman. I didn't go to school 8 years to sell. It's like, teaching, doctor is a Latin word from docere, meaning to teach. You're a teacher, and you did not teach them the option that they could have movie star teeth.
Yeah, it's 100%. Like, I actually, when I first started private practice, I was that doctor that was quote unquote frustrated. And I worked alongside Dr. Ryan Piper in Colorado Springs. Phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal doctor, A to Z. He produced, I mean, I don't need to get into numbers, but I would just look at him in awe, and I'd be like, how does he do that? And then I was young and naive. I was 26, and I was like, oh, they're just loading his schedule with all the big cases. Oh, this is all. And it was all like, oh, woe is me. And then I had met somebody at a conference, and he kind of like mentored me, Dr. Simon Stanley. And he's like, no, you're the problem. You're the only reason why your patients aren't accepting the treatment. You're not even seeing the treatment that's in front of you, et cetera. So we would hop on a call like every week, and I would shadow multiple dentists. And I had the opportunity and the luxury of working in multiple practices, both pediatrics, like adults, TMJ, this demographic, that demographic, whatever. And I really honed my skill. And you were absolutely correct. Like, it all comes down to, like, you have to look in the mirror and see what you're stopping. Like, why are you stopping your patient from getting treatment? And it is not a salesman thing. It is a teaching them thing. You have to let them know if there's an infection present in their mouth, and you'll use the word infection. And some people, I don't think some dentists even ever use that word. But once you start to like hone in on the buzzwords and educate your patient of why they need the treatment you're prescribing, and then give them the option of, like, you know, here's your Mercedes, here's your Cadillac, here's your Honda, like, you know, what do you want to do? Then it's almost game over. You can start anything and everything. And as long as your patient knows, sometimes like this might not have happened overnight, we don't have to fix it overnight, then they know that they have a safe place to come back to and slowly work on getting their mouth rehabilitated. You know, you don't have to scare certain people away. And unfortunately, all too often I see it like people being shamed while they're in the chair. I don't like that. I don't know why dentists think that they need to get on their high horse. I think we often forget that some people don't come from, a demographic or a home that enforced healthcare and oral hygiene. And we have to, take that into consideration and really teach that patient, from where they're at and get them where they can take care of themselves and get them a new smile.
That is so well said. So I just emailed you and Howard Goldstein and the editor of Dental Town. I'm sure if you were on the cover, more people would open the pages.
Yes, I would actually love to be on the cover.
But the thing that, again, where I was going after your dad's generation, they just didn't like that, and you had to be. I remember going into retail. I mean, right now everybody goes into a retail setting, but they don't realize historically that back in '87. When I went into the Safeway Plaza next to Chase Bank and Pizza Hut. By the way, I was next to Pizza Hut, which came from Wichita, Kansas.
Yes,
and
from
the
Wichita
founder,
State campus now.
And the founder was Dan Carney and his late wife Beverly. And when I opened up, he actually flew out to Phoenix and came to my office and to check on little Howie.
Oh, no way! I play polo with Mike Carney, his son.
Oh my God! Well, tell him I said hi.
I will.
So basically, I was at Bishop Carroll from. I graduated in '80, so from '76 to '80, we had pay phones that took a dime, and my business friend was Jim Bell, and that was the only guy in the class at 200. It was 100 women, 100 boys in each class, and he lived at, next in the same area I did in Hidden Lakes, and we had these business ideas. And one time we had this really great business idea, and the only person we knew that was the guru of business was Dan Carney. So we went to the payphone and we looked at the yellow pages or the white pages. We looked up Pizza Hut, so we called the number, and a secretary answered, and we told him we were at Bishop Carroll and we had a business idea, and could we come by and talk to Dan? And she said, sure. And I said, well, what time? She goes, you don't need an appointment, just come after school. So after school, we drove over there, and she let us in, and Dan, was talking to these older men, and here we were, two little dumbasses at 14 years old, and he listened to her whole idea, and it began a relationship every time. And we said, well, if we have another business idea, can we come by and see it? And he goes, of course. And he goes,
that's amazing.
And he goes, I love young entrepreneurs. And then when I opened up my damn office, he said, well, hell, you're right next to a Pizza Hut. I'm going to come out and I want to see your numbers. And then when he came out, he actually right on the spot, he said, if you want to open up 4 more of those, I'll cut you a check right now if you want to be 50-50 partners. And back then I said, you know what? I don't want to get married. I don't want to marry you. I said, I just got out of school. I want my independence, and I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm 24 years old, and I just and you know why I was so young is because back at West Sacrament, this is a funny story. That's by College Hill, is when my mom took me to the first day of kindergarten. I had 2 older sisters that were in that kindergarten, and they, after high school, they went straight to the nunnery, and that was when my mom found out that kindergarten was no longer a full day; it was now a half day. And she goes, "Okay, you got to come back and pick up Howie at 12:30, then come back and pick up the girls at 3:30." And my mom had 3 more babies at home, Kayleen, Kelly, and Shelly. And my mom just lost it. I can remember it like it was yesterday. And she's like, "I can't do this. I can't. I got 3 kids at home, and I can't come and pick him up." And she just lost it. And the nun, it was Sister Giovanni. She said, "No worries. We'll just put him in first grade." And so
just jump over.
Yeah, so here I was 5 going into first grade, and then I did Creighton in 3. So I was.
That's impressive. So
well,
you started practicing. You started practicing at 24.
Well, at 24.
Wow.
And, but I think I graduated at 23 in May. I didn't turn 24 till August. But the thing is,
that's crazy.
That was the other thing I didn't understand. I still think I'm right because they come out of school now and they say, well, I need to get some experience and I'm going to go work for a big old DSO and I'll live happily ever after. And then you come back at 5 years and they don't have their own practice. And have they been living happily ever after? No. For every year out of school, they've had a different job. And it's like, I met one the other day. She's been out 5 years and she's on her 7th job. I said, lady,
Yeah.
look, you know who you need to work for? You. And there's
Yeah.
no good time to open up your practice or have a baby. So what you want to do is do it as young and dumb as possible, because you're not going to die. You're not going to go bankrupt. I was so happy. I made 4 boys in 60 months while my office opened.
Aw.
And it was crazy, but we didn't die. And we're all alive. And now, you know, last Sunday was Easter, and I went and visited 2 of my boys and saw their grandchildren. Now that I'm getting, you know, now that I'm 58, I'm just looking like, I could never do that. I can't believe I even did that.
Yeah. I honestly, it's funny you say that. I think it was yesterday I had the thought. I just turned 31 a few months ago, and I was like, oh my God, holy shit. I am so happy that I did dental school in my 20s, because I could never do it again. Like, I could never go through what I went through again. And even those first 4.5 years in private practice, like, I killed myself at my DSO. I was working 5 to 6 days a week. I got a lot of experience and I got really good, but I was also stifled. I was doing a lot of prophies. I wasn't allowed to do molar endo. I wasn't allowed to take out third molars. All the fun stuff I couldn't really do. And so that's, I think, kind of the tragedy of what's happening when, you know, dental offices are being purchased by big corporations, is you lose the joy of, like, you lose the ability to do dentistry as you should be able to. And don't get me wrong, I had an incredible time and I needed to learn, and I still will be a lifelong learner. We will always learn as dentists. I learn something every day. But if I hadn't left, I don't think I would have been as happy as I am now. Like, I'm learning from my father, who's been, you know, doing full mouth rehabs for, decades. I'll see his patients come in that have actually been his patient longer than I am old. And I find that to be incredible. And you don't get to see that anymore in these large DSOs. Like, it's just churn and burn with the doctors and with the patients. And it's kind of, it's kind of sad. Like, it's like, I wish that there was more emphasis on, like, you know, standing your ground and creating, like, a quality service.
Well, I want to just talk about 2 things you said: that you work for a large DSO and you weren't allowed to do molar. So let's talk about them. People don't do things for random things. I mean, you can't have 500 to 1,000 locations and not have very serious reasons what you do. So here's what happened. This is all brought to you by the dental insurance companies. And the lawyers. If I do molar endo, you know, say they'll whatever I charge, they're only going to give me, like, say, $650. But if an endodontist does it, they'll do $1,200.
Yeah.
If the molar endo fails, and you call a lawyer, the lawyer is going to advise, okay, report him to the board and see if you can get a judgment from the board that he should have referred. Then I can go in and do civil and get some big money out of this. Well, not big, but like 15 grand or something like that.
It's
So
still
the
stressful.
DSOs are like, okay, so if I have, let's for easy math, let's say that I have you do it for $600, and I got to pay you 25% of production. So $600. 350. I have to pay you. The doctor gets dentist gets 250, right? Am I doing that right? 150. Okay, at 25% gets 150. At 25%. If I have a endodontist do it, the endodontist is going to get a 1,200. And if it fails, the lawyer is going to say, well, I'm sure the specialist did as good as he could. And then the endodontist is going to charge, 50%. So they get, so he's going to get 600. And the DSO doesn't have any legal fees. So the DSO is going to net 600. But when you did it at 600, they pay you 25%. So that's 150. So they're going to get 3. So they're going to get 450. So would you rather, if you own the DSO, would you rather make $450 gross profit off of a root canal having the general dentist do it, or $600 gross profit having the endodontist do it? So that is our world.
DSOs have a very smart business model. It's incredibly smart. I definitely think that they know what they're doing financially. And I do think that they put the patient in good hands when we have great specialists. And then there is an overseeing general dentist that does ensure that the patient gets the optimal care. But it just can be kind of like disheartening and draining, because you don't get to do a lot of the work. It's kind of like you do a little bit here, a little bit there, and patch them up. Again, I'm sure that it is a great business model, but it wasn't for me in the long run.
Okay, so to be clear, and then there's some moral issues with this because again, I don't care about anybody but my 6 grandchildren. And would I rather treat other people like you want to be treated? When I needed a root canal, I went to an endodontist who was so damn good. He told me I didn't need a root canal. I still haven't had a root canal, but 3 times a general dentist has told me I needed a root canal, and 3 times the endodontist said, I don't know. I would wait. But anyway, bottom line is I went to an endodontist. So it's really weird why I would send myself to an endodontist, but I wouldn't do it on my, the patient. So things are complex.
I just really quickly, another thing that does dishearten me is how many misdiagnoses there are. I had a patient come in as a general dentist diagnosed 3 root canals. It was on like 18, 19, 20. And when I looked in the mouth, number 15 was bombed out and number 15 did the root canal. So that's something I do touch base on my course. And it's proper treatment planning and assessing the patient as a whole, because it is really disheartening when you have a bunch of general dentists who are just like, I just don't understand how you can misdiagnose these. Like, you go to school, but like ask if you don't know, or at least like check with someone. And I would probably go to an endodontist if I need a root canal.
Yeah.
But
And now, do you know Alan Tebow?
oh yeah, I do.
Yeah.
He's friends with my dad.
So Alan Tebow and John Leese, who's an endodontist in LA, and me, we all went to from the 7th grade to the end of UMKC Dental School together. And we all showed up at Bishop Carroll in the morning before, and we all were on the wrestling team. And Alan Tebow, the scariest, tell Alan, the thing I hated the most about wrestling. I wrestled varsity 98, and he was a bigger boy. He was like 126, or I think he was 126. And the coach, you wrestle 98, but sometimes they put you in the 105 corner, sometimes the 112, sometimes the 119. But that's for. But Allen was sitting over there holding court at 126, and no one could beat him all the way to like 145. And he would give you the ass beating of your life. And one time, Coach Hager said, okay, Howard, go with Allen. And I said, no. I was so mad and beat up and everything. And then Coach, try not to laugh, he made Allen lay down on his back and his hands out. And he said, okay, give him your best move. And he broke my arms getting out of it. But anyway, Alan Tebow is just amazing. So yeah, if I lived in Wichita and grandchildren, I'd send them to Alan Tebow, the endodontist. So, it gets complex. Same thing with the wisdom teeth. The wisdom teeth is, if general dentist pulls a wisdom tooth and gets a lingual paresthesia, and you have 500 office locations, and they're going to want $1 million. But if the oral surgeon did it, you signed a consent form. He told you on the X-ray that you just can't really sue specialists very good. And so
I don't take out teeth that are close to the nerve or fully impacted. I will absolutely though take an erupted third molar out, especially if I'm working in the area A. If I'm working on 15 and 16 needs to go, I'll take it out. If 16's hurting and they walk in, I'll take it out. I don't dabble in things that could potentially cause me trouble, but I do still have them sign consent. And then in terms of, molar endo, I work in a population where some people just truly cannot afford specialists. If I tell them you need to go get a $1,200 endo, they're going to say no, pull the tooth. And so, when I came from my DSO to my dad's office, I was like, you need to refer all this. You need to refer all this. And he's like, you need to calm down. He's like, this is the reality of the situation that we're working in. We have this skill and this opportunity to provide people with a service at a lesser cost. And we still do a really good job. I mean, our endos, they last, and we do it to the best of our ability. So yes, it would be, if we could afford it, it would be a luxury to go to an endodontist for every root canal. But unfortunately, it's not the reality. That $500 extra to someone is their rent and their children's food, et cetera. So again, I won't dabble in wisdom teeth that, do need to be sent to a specialist for, optimum care and proper sedation. But when we do tackle those cases, I do believe it's for the benefit of the patient.
Now I have to ask you a sexist question, Lily.
Okay.
The DSOs, it's no secret that 2 out of every 3 of their dentists are females. And there's no secret in anthropology that the male kings and queens will marry the prettiest little princess if she's even in a caste system, if she's an untouchable. I mean, so women always, gross macroeconomics, women marry up, men marry down. I mean, there's guys, half the class of the dental school walked out of dental school, the males, and they had a doctorate in dental surgery, and they had an undergraduate degree, and they married the hottest looking chick from the Waffle House, and she's never had a job since. Women dentists will not marry the sexy cook from the Waffle House. They might look at him, drool on him, think about him, but when they go to get married, it's going to be a dentist equivalent. He's going to be a lawyer, a banker, finance, oral surgeon. Women dentists always have a man that makes $10,000 a month. And male dentists, 2 out of 3 times, have a stay-home wife that would have a hard time getting a job at Kohl's. You know, do you think that is the reason that so many women work at DSOs? Because they're like, well, I look in the mirror, I see a professional, I'm a dentist, but I'm also family first, business second, family first. I'm married, I have 2 kids, and I'm married to an oral surgeon. And even though we're both doctors in dental surgery, since I'm a woman, when he come home, he's not going to go through the backpack. He's going to watch ESPN. I mean, I don't know where this urge to wash your sheets and blankets every week comes from. I don't know why you have to treat your kid's backpack like a crime scene, that there's, missing evidence. I just never had the urge to do that with my 4 boys. And I thought their mother was, all mothers are little busier than they should be, just relax a little. But, do you think that, when me and your dad went to dental school, it was considered a male profession. Now you go into dental schools, half the class is women. Do you see it as a equal male-female profession now? And do you think the healthcare workforce of the DSOs over time will be 50-50? Or do you think they are attracting women? I mean, I saw this with my 5 sisters. When I was little, all the gynecologists were males. And when they said, you're acting hysterical, well, hyster is a Greek word for uterus. I mean, that'd be like I say I have a stomach. I mean, so when a gynecologist was saying you're being hysterical, I mean, they don't exist anymore, all the OBGYNs. And I'm seeing the same trend in pediatric dentistry. I mean, every pediatric program I went to 30 years ago was all males. Now it's almost all women. I mean, usually the class have like 6 students and it's like only like 1 guy. So I already see the market saying, oh yeah, well, I have 2 kids. I'd rather talk to Susie than that bald fat guy over there. I mean, I want to talk to a woman. So what variables do you see between you being a girl, your dad being a boy in dentistry today?
I think that's a really great question. It's absolutely loaded. I think a lot of things are changing. Actually, in fact, I bought a house recently, and on my mortgage documents, I was like at first slightly offended, but then I realized it was almost an honor. It was like Lily Wakim, a single woman, is buying this house. And I was like, well, that's, screwed up. Like, way to point it out. Like, yeah, I would love to be dating someone, but I'm not. But then the woman told me it was in either 1974 or 1976 is when a woman could finally first buy a home on her own or loan money from a bank on her own. And so I think that there is a natural progression that women are getting more rights. I think that for so long in our culture, women have been stifled and have been, given the role of like, mother, you stay at home, et cetera. But now as things are changing, women are allowed to become more ambitious. And with that, I think women are going for professions where they can, have status and can make a good paycheck and don't necessarily need to rely on a man. A few years ago, I was hoping that I would find like a rich husband, and that wasn't going to work out for me ever, because I've always been pretty independent and I was raised to be independent. And it would be nice to find a partner who's an equal. And I think that that's kind of what is trending. I will say at my old DSOs, the powerhouses were not defined by male or female. They were truly defined by the certain individual that was holding the role. I do remember in Colorado Springs, I mean, it was the top doctors were just the top doctors. It wasn't because they were male or female. And in Denver, Dr. Katie McCann, absolute powerhouse. It was just her personality. And her husband is actually the one that just likes to kind of relax a little bit, but it worked for them. And so I think that I don't think that sex has much to do with it. I think it's truly just the individual. I think a lot of it is nature versus nurture. Like, how were you raised? Were you, I think, coming from an ethnic culture? I see a lot of ethnic women who are driven to take, roles in medicine and healthcare because their families are like, we want you to be successful. We don't want you to be poor like we were. So I think that's a lot of the trend that's starting to occur is when you get immigrant families, parents who want their children to be hardworking and just women who in general want a status and want the ability to go to Louis Vuitton and buy themselves a nice purse and not wait around for a man to buy it. And it is interesting, a lot of men do have absolutely beautiful wives, especially a lot of my, dental classmates, but these wives, I mean, maybe they're not doctors, but every one of those wives that I see support their husbands emotionally and are just incredible partners. So, doesn't mean that I need to find a doctor or a lawyer or whatever. But I think what's important is just finding a partner that's going to be emotionally supportive of you. And that's kind of just my opinion of what I've seen and what I think is starting to trend.
Well, I mean, it's so I graduated from dental school in '87, and women in Ireland were not legally allowed to get a divorce until
Oh, wow.
1995. And I can still
Wow.
remember because my mom cried like a baby. She's Irish, and we came here from Ireland or whatever, and my gosh, she thought that was just the end of Ireland. She did the same thing when I was 10, and they Blessed Sacrament changed the bishop changed the law that instead of the masses being Latin, they'd be in English. That's what Martin Luther did. He was the first Catholic priest to translate the Bible from Latin into German because everything the priests were saying was a lie. Saying, "Oh, your mom died and she can't get into heaven without 6 silver pieces, and it's in the Bible." And he knew it wasn't in the Bible, so he translated it. And the response was the Catholic Church sent the Knights of Columbus to go kill him. And so a nun in the
Oh
same
my God.
Carmelite monastery that my sister's in hid him in a wine barrel and took him to the border to take to London. She was going to sell a barrel of wine, and so Martin Luther hid in a wine barrel and got snuck in because the King of England didn't like the Pope either. And so I mean, it's crazy. And then in the United States, a little closer to home, what was it? It was my gosh, when was coverture? Oh yeah, New York passed the Married Women's Property Law in 1848, which was to turn over the British law of coverture, which means that when you marry a man, the man, all the legal property and a woman's legal rights and obligations were turned over to her husband. So
Oh,
and then when you go back to originally started as in the Babylonian days in the Fertile Crescent, I mean the problem with the marriage started because if I'm married to you and I die, well, what are we going to do with this house, these kids, everything? So you would go to my eldest brother, and then they started down the line. My dad's life, you're his brother, all the way down to the youngest boys. And sometimes women, a man would die, and you'd be assigned to a 6-year-old boy, and
oh gosh.
you were his wife. I mean,
That's so
so
bizarre. I mean, if we look at the history of marriage, it's really it's insane. Do you know who Esther Perel is?
Esther Perel.
Yes, she's absolutely incredible. I first heard of her on a podcast with Tony Robbins. And she talks about like marriage and the longevity of marriage and what you should do to like have a fruitful long marriage. And essentially she talks about like how you cannot rely on one person to bring you happiness and to be your X, Y, and Z, A, B, C, D, E. But then she also talks about how marriage has changed over the years. Like it used to be, to get land or to get something. And now, if you, it's just a very bizarre thing, I suppose. And I think that
It is,
companionship.
and I think it's and I think the what I love the most about divorce is these women screaming about child support. I mean, palimony. I mean, I know some rich female dentists where their husband knew they had lost, so they quit their job 1 year before they were going to file. Then told the
Ah,
spouse, "I'm going to go back to school or I'm going to do this." So then they stay home and they don't make income for a
mhm.
year. Then a year and 1 day
Yep.
they get a divorce, and now she's like, now I got to pay him $8,000 a month for 15 years. And I'm
Yeah,
like, welcome to America.
I know.
Welcome. It's a
I
racket.
just had this conversation with a gentleman. I was telling him how, a few of my friends who a few doctors, another different physician, all are divorced and paying the ex-husband an extraordinarily high amount of alimony. And that to me is stressful. And that's not what the union of marriage should be. Like, if I get married, I want it to be a companionship. I will absolutely have a prenup agreement. I don't want anything that you brought in. And I don't want you to take anything that I've built, because that's not what love is. Like, if you get married, it should be for love and for partnership and companionship. It should not be like, let me screw someone else out of their hard earned money. And unfortunately, I see that so much. And there's so much like bitterness towards like someone that you vowed to love. It's almost really disheartening. It's like, it's like, people take accountability for your shit. It's like, whether you're in the dental office and you have a patient that doesn't want to do treatment and you blame it on them, and your front office staff and your hygienist blame it on everyone but you. And I think that's just the issue today with, marriage, divorce, dentistry, et cetera, is people just don't take accountability for their own actions.
And as an economist, I mean, if you give someone welfare and they don't get a job, that doesn't make sense. When you look at the economics, the easiest way to explain it to anybody is the whole planet has one person, and it's Lily, and she works for the whole year, and she's on let's go with gosh, did you ever see the sitcom what was that 6 people, Gilligan's Island? Did you ever see Gilligan's Island?
I know what it is. I've seen like an episode or two back in the day.
Yeah, so these people were out on a cruise and they got stranded on an island. So let's say you're stranded on an island and the whole world is an island, and Lily's total productivity year is she builds a hut, and the government issues $1, and so now Lily's hut is worth $1. Lily is still the only person. She only built one hut in the same unit of time, and the government prints another $1. Now the hut is worth $2. That's inflation. That's why, that was why Milton Friedman and his wife Rose Friedman, Milton won the Nobel Prize. I got my mind skipped because even the Nobel Prizes are just a lie. They're doing all the handwriting now. So in religion how, if you take that chapter of John, in the last chapter of John, which gives all the authority to the church, says, and to you, Peter, I entrust the keys of the kingdom of heaven. What you declare on earth, I declare in heaven. Well, all the handwriting experts that break this out in algorithms say, well, that was totally written by someone else 3 centuries later. I mean, it's just mathematically. And you look at all those Nobel Prize, men that think men are smarter, they're always like, well, all the Nobel Prizes are run by women. Yeah, with all their female grad students' work, and the only one they gave a Nobel Prize to was that Madame Curie, because she was so over the top. In fact, she's the only person that got 2. But now you're starting to look at all the notes of these people, and you're the professor, and you got 2 girls over there that worked on this stuff for 3 years, but when they write up the paper, well, it's never going to be published without my name on it, so let's erase your 2 names and put my name on it, then I get a Nobel Prize. The Catholic Church won't let a woman be a priest, but the bottom line is it's in economics, when you get a divorce and I pay you, so now you don't have any productivity. Well, when you do it with welfare, people get it that's not a good idea. I mean, we got 322 million people, and only 140 million of them are either making a sandwich or cutting your hair. You got to, if you wanted to double, when you say to anybody, hey, you feel sorry for poor people, how would you like to double the wealth of the world? They say, yeah, well, how do you do it? They're going to think it's some government program or print money. No, if everybody on earth makes 1 sandwich a day, and you can get them to make 2 sandwiches a day instead of 1, we just doubled the whole planet's productivity. And you're not going to double the productivity when you're sitting home on welfare, when you're sitting home on palimony or alimony or whatever. All we do is subsidize people to be non-productive. And it's showing up even with the senior citizens. 38% of American senior citizens say that they're lonely. Well, why? Because you're subsidizing them with Social Security, go live in a house. If you cut all that shit off, they'd move in with you. And then you're complaining that you don't have daycare while we're subsidizing grandma to live alone and lonely. I mean, they just need to get the government out of everyone's life and let it return to natural.
The system is really, really messed up. I mean, it really breaks my heart to kind of see what we do with old people. 65 is not young. Old. It is not old. 65 is like still really young. Like, and we're like, oh, you should retire. What are you going to do for the next 30 years? Like, what are you going to do? Just sit around and, like you're saying, like put yourself in like a home, and then your kids need a babysitter. I mean, We do live in this strange society that makes you think you're supposed to work from 9 to 5, from 30 to 65, and then you're done. Like I get teased because I'm not working full time, because I've dedicated a lot of my free time when I'm not in the office to developing my course. I'm writing a book, etc. Because I feel like if I can change something, then I can have a bigger impact. And I might have deterred from what you were just saying, but we live in this society where these people on Medicaid don't have access to, like, I mean, I don't know what they don't have access to, maybe the knowledge or the ability to understand that sugar like destroys and rots the kids' teeth. And so I'll see kids who will have a, $10,000 surgery done by a pediatric dentist, Medicaid, for free, not one penny paid out of their pocket. And then I'll see the kids just drinking Coke and eating Skittles. And then I'll see, a mother coming in, a single working mom, really trying to pay for her kid's insurance. Her kid has a few cavities. It's going to cost her $700 out of her pocket because of her horrible insurance. And so I see this very difficult system where it does not make any sense. And then the people who are getting everything paid for, I'm glad that these children are getting cared for. But what makes it difficult for me is when they're not getting the home education and oral health care from the parents, enforcing why we need to not let this happen again. That's perpetuating this cycle of just, horrible caries, awful oral health, awful disease, diabetes, etc. And then you grow up to maybe not have as much ambition. You're tired, you're fatigued because you're overweight, you're under, you don't have enough nutrition, etc. So yes, I do think that what you're saying is very important. We definitely need to find a way to educate and to inform and to maybe, I don't know how to say less handouts, but if you get a handout, you need to understand how to prevent it from happening in the future. Get yourself out of that difficult situation.
And let's talk about handouts, because there's a bunch of people in the government that when you study 5,000 years of history, for 5,000 years the government was always the bad guy. They started all the wars, you see the individuals hardly doing anything wrong. And then you see the government's doing just these massive atrocities. Like World War I and II come to mind. You know what I mean? Just horrible atrocities. And then when they do, and then the others, then the socialists, like out here in Arizona, I go up to the Indian reservation and I go to the dentist, the office manager. What is your biggest problem? Well, 50% of the people don't show up for their appointment. Well, we have 200 years of economic theory. I believe his name was Adam Smith, a 32-year-old Scot from Scotland, the wealth of nations. Do these people have any skin in the game? How much does it cost them to make an appointment?
Zero.
Nothing.
Right.
What happens when they don't commit? Nothing. So what is your damn question? Do you have the same question with your dog or your cat? So I'll say, why don't you make it? What is it? What is it? Look at their Visa card. What does it cost them when they go to fast food at McDonald's with mom and dad and 2 kids? Believe it or not, it's like $30, $40. And so I said, why don't you make it so it's $20 to make an appointment? And then they look at you like, Howard, they're poor. What are you, a Nazi? Are you sick? Are you a psycho? They're poor. It's like, they're not poor, they're humans. Yeah. They're human beings, and you treat them, you treat your horses and cattle better than your social park. You go to Yellowstone, you go to the park across the street from the dental reservation, at the Indian reservation, it says, do not feed the wild animals. And then you go to the dental office, you're not allowed to charge them to make an appointment, even though 50% don't show up for the appointment. And people look at you like, so economics, it either let's just throw the whole damn thing away, or let's listen to it. We got 200 years of data. When I got my MBA, they're as serious in economics as they are in endodontics. If you think the endodontists are intense.
It's all a numbers game. And it also discredits, I think, the profession when you are able to make an appointment for free and not show up. You're not taking it as seriously, and you don't understand that this healthcare provider has not only given up time in their day, but put you on the schedule. And then when people don't show up and we don't hold them accountable, then it makes it feel like the dentist is just, it's just when there's a problem, and people don't see that it's supposed to be preventative. You're supposed to go every 6 months. I had, unfortunately, a patient come in today that she hadn't been in for a year and a half, and now she needs a root canal and crown, and then another tooth that was extracted. If she had maybe come in a little sooner, maybe it could have been 2 root canals and crowns, or just 1 root canal and crown. And it's like people don't understand that the dentist is also very preventative. It's not just for cleaning, it's for catching things before they get to become exponential problems. But if you don't come in, if you think it's free, if you think it's just, whatever, then you have this perception that, like, oh, I'll just come in when it hurts, or like when it's a problem. And that's, I think, the issue that dentists have.
And you could talk to your own dentist friends. Like, would a dentist say something like, I'm so mad at my kid. He always leaves his bike out in the front yard, and when it's going to get stolen, I go, stop, 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 stop. I guarantee you he didn't pay a dime for that bike. It was given to him. Oh, yeah, he got it on his birthday. Okay, well, so there's your lesson. You want to reward him for not doing anything but just riding around the sun one time, and he gets a free bicycle. Didn't do a damn thing. He didn't push the earth. He didn't put the earth in orbit. He didn't do a damn thing. He just went for a ride. I said, but, my boys, I remember when they say they wanted a Honda 50. I'd say, well, where's the word Honda come from? And then they knew we were all going to go to Barnes and Noble, and we are going to buy the autobiography of Mr. Honda, and then we wrote that. And actually, I made him read the one to Dr. or Mr. Yamaha, because Mr. Yamaha Mr. Honda, that was an incredible man. But Yamaha, what I love about him is he loved motorcycles and pianos. And they'll tell you in MBA school, you can only do one thing. You're never going to make it to the Fortune 500 doing 2 things. But he did. He's number 1 market share in Yamaha motorcycles in Japan, and number 1 market share in Yamaha organs and piano keyboards. He's number 1 in pianos and motorcycles. That is a totally rare event. Like, to this
That's
day,
amazing.
Facebook makes 98% of their revenue on advertising.
Mhm.
Same with Google, YouTube,
Mhm.
Alphabet. They're a one-trick pony deal. But I'd sit there and say, oh, you want a Honda? Okay, well, you know the deal. We're going to sit there and we're going to go get the biography. I hate autobiographies. We're going to get the biography, and we're going to read that, and that would be fun. And then we're going to get on we're going to buy 1 share of Honda, so
That's
you know
amazing.
how this works. And I did that, when they said they want to go to Disneyland. Well, let's go read about Walt Disney. And I know Walt Disney's a flawed man, and so is Henry Ford. And some
Well, we're all flawed.
yeah,
We're human.
and the time period and the world wars. And I'm not going to sit there and say, oh, we can't clap for a Ford 150 pickup truck because he was
Right.
a piece of shit in other areas. I mean,
Well, that's the thing. I'm not about cancel culture. We can't just cancel things
Yeah.
because someone wasn't Jesus.
yeah. And yeah, exactly. I mean, my gosh. And so the bottom line is, you want to go to Disneyland? And I'd say, well, where did this word Disney? Well, what is that? Is that a fruit? Is that a human? And they'd roll their eyes because they know we're going to go to Barnes and Noble and talk to the lady and read another biography, buy 1 more share of stock. Because when my kids were little, if you bought 1 share of stock, the SEC made you mail them the 10K annual report. In fact, a lot of them would mail you the 10Q quarterly report, but I didn't like that. I just liked the end of year report, because it's going to show a statement of income, a statement of cash flow, and a balance sheet. And my dad, before I was 10, he owned 10 Sonics. And you know who my other friend was? The Spangles, the Stevens
which
family.
one? I love all the Stevens. They're
You know
all my
Renee?
good friends.
You know
Yes,
Renee?
I know Renee.
I grew
Yes.
up down the street from Renee
Aw.
in Hidden Lakes Estate off Maze Road. And
Well,
I
all
thought
of her siblings are all in town, and they're all wonderful. And I work out at Genesis, and Sissy Corey's my realtor. She's one of the sisters, and I love her parents, and I love all of the Stevens.
the Lebanese mafia. And
They're literally the mafia of this town. The Lebanese are the mafia.
and my name means Faran in Lebanon, and Lebanese is baker. And in the family tree, they literally think a Lebanese person went from Lebanon to Ireland, hung out for a couple centuries, and found some redheads and moved on. But the bottom line. But the bottom line is, you want a motorcycle, you're going to read Mr. Honda's autobiography, and I recommend you meet Mr. Yamaha, see which one bike you want to get. You're going to get a share of their stock. When the mail comes in once a year, we're going to 10K. My dad would send me down. By the time I was 10, whenever he'd go to Carol's Accounting, it was so tough because we go to Carol's Accounting. When my dad would meet with Carol, the head Gil, Carol would take one of her bookkeepers and put her on me, and she'd give me a statement of cash flow and a balance sheet, and I'd have to find the numbers for the missing sheet. I mean, so they give you two of the three: a statement of income, statement of cash flow, or a balance sheet. They give you
Figure it out.
two, and you had to find the third one. But I thought I was being tortured. But when I got older, I realized I was, and that's the one thing about the culture that I've lectured in 50 countries, and I can sum up rich countries and poor countries. One thing, they all put family first. They're all happy, love their babies, cry at funerals. And they're all the same, except some countries you go to and they're just upset. All the conversation at dinner is soccer. And I've been in, I think, 3 different countries during the World Cup in that country at a bar as drunk as an Irishman. And it was the funnest thing I've ever seen in my life. But when you go to Lebanon, when you go to Iran, when you go to Korea, there are some countries where the dinner conversation is all business. And then you go to that guy's house across the street and it's all soccer. And I think business starts at home. And the one thing all these entrepreneurs don't understand is they learned a lot of this stuff from their parents, their grandparents, and it was a family culture.
It's 100% family culture. I mean, my parents, could they have paid off my loan? I mean, maybe, I'm not really sure, for dental school, but I took out that loan. And they made sure that I knew what I was paying for because they wanted me to work. And so I think it's really important, the value, of money. I don't think that people have it these days. People are racking up credit card bills, like what you're saying, driving $50,000 cars and then neglecting their own mouths. And I even see in dentistry, I don't think people realize that people will spend money on something if you make them understand how important it is. And I think that this is kind of like, it kind of blows my mind that people don't look at their mouth as an investment for, security, for job security. You have teeth. Some people don't have teeth. Like, I dentulated a 20-year-old a few weeks ago from meth. And then I had to give him his new teeth. And he's like, thank you for my new smile, new outlook on life. But like, business does start at home. And we have to make sure that when we have a patient in the chair, we let them know that their smile is like a part of their business. It's their persona. It's who's going to carry them on. And I think that's part of our responsibility, is to let them know that, like, money should not be an issue. We can work through it, etc. But yeah.
So what kind of a dentist, what do you love to do? Are you blood and guts? You like root canals, extractions, placing implants? Are you soft and pretty, love bonding, bleaching, veneers, and Invisalign? Where do you fall?
I love all of the above, to be honest with you. I really love all of them. I love endo. I opened up a tooth today and found it was a molar endo. I found 4 canals. I just did a debridement. I didn't finish it. I didn't have time, but I enjoy it. It's like challenging to me. I love to pull teeth. I love to place my sutures. I don't like removable so much. I would prefer them to get like an all-on 4 or something like that. My dad will place them. I don't place them. I don't like removable as much. That's the one thing I don't like. But I like everything else. I really like Botox, fillers, veneers, Invisalign. I really think that the foundation of the mouth is super important. So before I go into any hardcore restorative, I will almost every time make sure the mouth is foundationally sound. And it's funny, earlier in this conversation, you had mentioned I'm a board certified orthodontist. One of my good friends here in Wichita, Dr. Vincent Santucci, is in fact a board certified orthodontist. And we'll go to coffee and we'll just talk about some cases.
You're a board certified orthodontist?
No, my friend Vincent.
Oh, your friend Vincent.
No, not me. No.
Oh, okay, I heard that wrong.
No. My friend Vincent is, and we'll go to coffee and we'll just sit and talk about cases, not necessarily cases I'm taking on, but things I just want his perspective on. And you can learn a lot from, your specialist or just talking to them. So I think Wichita has got a lot of hidden gems. And, having a good friend who's board certified in orthodontics is one of them. So I enjoy all of those aspects.
So I know we're past the hour and you're probably wondering when the hell I'm going to shut up and let
No,
you off.
you're fine.
I got a couple more questions.
Yeah.
I want to ask a personal question. You are high self-esteem and you've been out of school for 5 years or more or whatever. A lot of questions and emails I get, they come out of school and they only became a dentist because their mom's a dentist or their dad's a dentist, and they went back home to Fort Scott, Kansas, and they're practicing with their dad. and they didn't have, like you said, when you got married, you get a prenuptial agreement. And she went back and she started working for her dad, and his dad was doing 750, and now 5 years later, he's doing 1,250,000. And then the dad finally says he's going to sell it to her, appraises the whole damn practice at 1.2 million, and says that's what it's going to cost. And she's thinking, holy moly, I worked 5 years and doubled this practice, and now I got to buy it from myself. And
That's hard.
they don't get a prenuptial agreement with their spouse, so they're sure as
Yeah.
hell not going to get one with their dad and their mom. And then some of
Right.
them have questions like, they learned all through endo school how bad Sargenti was. I mean, Dr. Sargenti was an Italian paste with paraformaldehyde. It saved 1 billion teeth, but nevertheless, it's not to be used anymore. The lawyers will see to that. And she doesn't know what to say to her father who's flipping Sargenti. And so I just wanted to, you did you get a prenuptial with your dad when you started working there? Did you sign a contract with your
So
dad?
I actually did not sign a contract. I did argue a daily rate that I thought was something that was important to me. My dad and I are a little non-traditional. Um, when I graduated, he gave me a contract and I absolutely refused to sign it. I said, I'm not working for you, not yet. I need to go out and like fly on my own and understand dentistry on my own. And I did that for 4 years. And then coming back, he's had some ideas of like selling the practice to me, et cetera. And I was like, I'm not going to buy this because I don't want to be married. Like you said, I don't want to be married to this brick and mortar business, which I am thankful for. It has given me so much throughout the past 30 years, but that's a big responsibility. I have another brother who I think wants it, but part of me also, in terms of like the business, that's my dad's baby. And like, if he goes and sells it to me for 1 million, like to me, I don't think it's smart on his behalf. I think he should have us work and make him money. It doesn't make really any sense. I don't want to buy it. And why would he give away his life's work for $1 million? To me, that I don't get that. So I don't have a contract with him. I have a per diem. He gives me bonus based on production as well. And I think he's getting to that point where he's trying to understand what he wants to do, but he has no intention on retiring anytime soon. So, he kind of calls himself the clinical director. Like if he's got patients, he sends us and does work. I run my own column, et cetera. But I think that doctor that you mentioned that walked into her dad's practice and doubled it and had to see him try to sell it for over double what she walked in, that's difficult. I don't know if I would buy it at that. I would probably say, hey, dad, you're using something that I don't necessarily, it's not something that we use anymore. I wouldn't buy the practice for over what it was when I walked in. And that's what I would say. And if he doesn't do it, then they can hash it out. But I don't think she should be taken advantage of.
So
It's difficult.
what you said was so profound that when you come out of school, if you just go back to daddy and mommy's place, I mean, it's
Yeah.
kind of like you're just right back to dental kindergarten school with mommy.
Yeah.
You got to go out and improve your
Hmm.
independence. And I
Yeah.
have told so many. I've read it in family owned business. In fact, Benco is a third generation family business, and the only person I've ever read in the Harvard Business Review from dentistry was actually Chuck Cohen, the third generation and Benco, and it was actually an issue about family businesses and transparencies. And the whole research shows that, okay, if I own a company and you got a degree in marketing and you come back to my company ABC and you want to be the marketing director. Okay, well, the marketing director, we would not hire a marketing director unless they had previous experience as a marketing director. So we're not going to hire you. Good luck. There's 8 billion people out there. Go find somebody that wants to hire you. And when you work your way up to a marketing director and you're
Hmm.
making this much money, maybe someday you can do a lateral transfer to the family owned business as a marketing
Yes.
director. Because if you're not going to do that, you're going to start in the
Yeah.
mailroom and you're going to
Hmm.
start, on the factory floor, and you're going to get promoted just like everybody else. We do not
Right.
believe in the Lucky Sperm Club. And in fact, there was a really, really great deal when I was in MBA school because I lived in Phoenix and you lived in Colorado Springs. There was a paper that asked, how come in 1940, Albuquerque, Phoenix, and Denver all were the same size? And then 30 years later, two of them are massive megalo cities, and one of them
Mhm.
is kind of really a poor rundown Albuquerque, and they could only mathematically link it to nepotism, which it kills the
Ooh,
third world. Where if the governor
wow.
comes in, well, now my sister's going to run the airport and my brother's going to run the water department. And it's like, well, the water department's been there 100 years. Haven't there been people that have been working there 20, 30, 40 years waiting for the top shot? But now your sister in law gets it. And Wall Street's filled with that.
Yeah,
Like you go to Disney, you go to that board
yeah.
when Michael Eisner was there. I mean, it's basically a family reunion on his board of directors. I mean, no one was going to tell him what to do. So it's nepotism. So you're either merit based or you're lucky sperm based,
Well,
and
I
I'm
think
merit based.
nepotism is dangerous, I think, because it leads to entitlement. And I think that's the issue is that with entitlement also comes complacency. And with complacency, there's the loss of progress and progression. And I think that's probably, I'm thankful I did not come back. My dad and I would have butt heads and I would have left and I would have been worse off. I mean, it wasn't easy when I first came back either, but I think you always have to, step back and say, how can I progress myself in the best way possible? Like I may have a lucky shot. Like I'm thankful I have a family business, but I don't like rely on it. And I could walk away at any time because it's also my life. And if it's not working for me, like I'm covering another doctor's maternity leave in a few weeks because that's what works for me. I can't work full time with my dad. It's a lot. And I also want to give back to a woman who's about to give life, to a child and help run her office. And so I don't necessarily think that it's always healthy to join the family business because, I mean, again, I think it can be resentment, it can be expectations, entitlement, etc.
All right, last question. The reason we had this deal was your course,
Yes.
and the doctor doesn't want to sell dentistry because he knows when the patient says, "Doctor, can you give me an estimate on this case?" And the doctor's going to say, "Well, I estimate you're going to be very upset when you see the price." And but my gosh, case acceptance. We
Well,
started this.
right there, everything you said, people do that all the time and it kills it right from the go. Like that's not even how you approach the case.
Well, and with
So,
that, what are they going to learn? It's $2,500,
yeah,
and to learn a course to do a treatment plan that's going to be $25,000. It's
yeah,
kind of like when I was learning ortho with Richard Litt, and the course was 5,000. All my friends like, man, that's too expensive. I'm like, dude, your first ortho case is $5,000.
yeah,
You're not going to do
yeah,
your first ortho case for free. So listen,
right.
you're listening to this course.
Yeah,
You're listening to this podcast, and you've never ever once did a case ever for 25 grand. And now someone's
yeah.
telling you, well, for $2,500, which is 10% of that case, I'll show you how to do it. And I hope you put it on Dental Town or some form of it or whatever, because this is their weak area. So close with why they should give you $2,500 to learn a course on case acceptance.
Yeah, absolutely. So case acceptance to me builds your office, it builds your revenue, it builds your reputation because once you get started working on a patient and you give them a good experience, then you've got a patient for life. If you're making sure that they're comfortable, if they understand the treatment, if they know how this is going to improve their life for not just right now, but for the longevity, if you get them something to be excited about, and like, oh my God, it's like the world is your oyster. And like I talked about earlier, then you have a walking advertisement. But I think all too often like dentists focus on the financial and they get scared to present treatment. And once the doctor is scared to present treatment, it's game over. Once you start to put a financial limitation on the work you're about to provide, it's game over. And I see it all too often. Like you shouldn't be afraid to let people know how much your service is worth. You shouldn't be afraid to let people know what you can offer them. If your patient comes in and they're in a lot of pain and a root canal and crown is going to cost them $2,000, you let them know that root canal and crown is going to give them chewing, biting surface for X amount of years, and it's going to prevent them from losing a tooth and prevent them from spending $5,000 on an implant later on. So I think this course is super important. I think I priced it at $2,500 because I felt like that's what doing the course could at minimum start raising your daily worth to be. Because when I was in My DSO, on average, I would produce anywhere from like 3,000 to 12,000 a day. It just depends on the day. It depends if I had a bunch of implants and restorations, or a bunch of root canals, crowns, whatever. But I learned how to effectively, treatment plan and get things started like this. And I put it into this course because I felt like this was, when patients walk in and they're terrified and they leave overjoyed having spent thousands of dollars, you're in a good position. And after years of having this experience, I was like, okay, I have to share this with other doctors who may feel like dentistry is a burden to them, or who may feel like they don't have enough, patient flow, because that's really not the case. Again, it's quality over quantity. And I want other doctors to have the same experience I do. I want them to be the go-to provider. I want their patients to be happy and to get quality dentistry, because at the end of the day, I feel like we have a mission. Like, we have to take care of the patient as a whole, not just the tooth. And that's why I put this course together. And that's why I do believe it's, I personally believe it's invaluable, because even today I did probably like $5,000 worth of dentistry in a half day. And it's simple. It's really simple, but I think we have a tendency to overcomplicate and to overthink, and maybe to even get greedy at times, or to forget to step back and look at the broader picture. So that's what this course is about. And, I hope that people are able to take it. I'd love to put a teaser course up. I have some previews available that people can read through and watch, that are public before you purchase the course. But when you do purchase it, it's got the meat of everything in it.
And also, when you said walking advertise, I remember back in the day, technology always starts everything. Like when you study the stock market from like 1860 to today, it was always technology first. It was this combustion steam engine that led to pumping water out of coal mines. It got smaller. They started putting it on ships. When they got to America, they started the canals. The telegraph turned into the telephone, turned into the internet. It's always a technology. And when adhesive dentistry came about from Fusuyama in Japan and Bob Ibsen in Denmark. That started the cosmetic revolution. And I went to LVI with Dickerson and Hornbrick and Rosenthal back in the day. But when I got out of that course and I knew how to do veneers, the first thing I did is I went to all the beauty salons within a 5-mile radius of my office and said, I'll do the head woman in charge that owns the salon if she leaves the 8x10 before and after. And I did free veneers, and that was really a good marketing thing. But what crushed it is I knew my sisters, I knew the two dentists who volunteered to do her dentistries for free because they were both in nunneries. And so I thought, well, so I went to all the churches in Wichita. There were 18 of them. And there's only like one Catholic, but there's like mostly Lutherans and all these other things. And I went to all of them and I said, I will do the pastor's teeth for free, because someone's doing my two sisters for free. And oh my God, the older pastors were the ones that knew that they were up there in front of a big audience, and they weren't televangelists, but they knew the importance of a smile more than little Howie did. I was a young kid. I didn't really get it because I always thought the beauty was it was a girl's thing. And the two Lutherans next to my office both wanted the veneers. And they come in, I did them for free. And this is what blew my mind the most. I thought when I left LVI and learned cosmetic dentistry and all that it was to be the young, pretty girls like you who wanted the cosmetic dentistry. Oh my God. It was the 70, 80-year-old women that were coming in with liver spots the size of a quarter on their head saying, did you do Pastor Don's teeth? Oh my God, he's so beautiful. Can you do that for me? And I'm like, and then when you give them the mirror, they were blind, that you could see their cataracts. And we'd have all the assistants come in and we just say, oh my God, you don't look a day over 65. And they would just like, and then to top that off, so then I went and spent a couple days with Larry Rosenthal because I wanted to find out, okay, my litmus test, is this real or not? Can any dentist do it full time? And I was amazed that when sleep medicine came out, I found some dentists that came on the show. They switched to only full time sleep. But the only guy that was doing veneers full time was Dorfman in L.A. and Rosenthal in Manhattan. And I went and spent a day with each of them, uninvited, unannounced, just showed up, and it was a blast because I was lecturing out there. So I just stay a day
Yeah.
earlier, stay a day late. But Rosenthal blew my mind because I didn't even see it coming. Larry, he's good looking. It helps to sell cosmetic dentistry when you're hot. Let's just
Right. It helps.
yeah, that's a big part of the aura. And Rosenthal, he's got the hair and the ponytail, and he drives a black Porsche. But this is what blew my mind. When it was lunchtime, we went to the hottest little restaurant deal where all the rich 70, 80-year-old women was. And we'd walk in their table, and every little lady he saw, they all knew he was Dr. Rosenthal. And he'd look at her and say, "Margaret, oh my gosh." And he'd pinch her cheeks. He goes, "If you got a smile makeover, you'd look like you were 60 years old." And this lady, with a walker, like, "Really, Larry? You think I would look?" And then, 2 days later, she's in his office chunking down
Yes.
50 grand
No.
to put veneers
People-
on. Oh
People
my
will spend
God.
the money. People will spend the money. And some of my favorite transformations are older clients. I've even done Invisalign on 64-year-old women, 65-year-old men, and then I'll do veneer, and then I'll do like whatever afterwards. But they're some of my favorite clients because they're overjoyed. They've never had a smile like this before, and it does drop their age like 20 years. And it really makes them just like spunky and even happier. And it's really life-changing and beautiful.
And I was lucky because the only orthodontist, talk about a mafia, the Ortho Society. They got like 95% of the orthodontists are members of the AAO in St. Louis. They form a circle. They're an intense group. And but Harry Green is one of the board certified orthodontists. He's out here in Phoenix, and he came to my office to help me do my first ortho case, and it was on my 65-year-old Aunt Sue. And I was so young, I never would have thought to suggest. And I told Aunt Sue that this guy was helping me, and she says, "Oh, Howie, I've always wanted braces." So then I'm in the next room calling Harry because I'm sitting there thinking, well, she can't get braces. She's 65 years old. That's not even a thing. And Harry said, "Baloney, let's do it." And so I put Aunt Sue. Of course, she fell in love with Harry, and they, but she came. But anyway, what was amazing to me is I had no idea that she grew up in Parsons and was too poor to get ortho. I had no idea that she looked in the mirror and saw horrible, ugly teeth her whole life. And that was the other one when 4 or 5 months into braces, you know how you get the biggest movements up front. Her self-esteem shot through the roof, and now it's 30 years later, and she's like, 280 years old. When she was born, the Dead Sea was only sick, and she still talks about her smile. It's still just the biggest thing.
It's never too late to give someone the smile of their dreams. Ortho is also super important, not just aesthetics, but even later in life. I had a 45-year-old today who severe crowding, his canines are super far forward. And I was like, if we pull your first premolars, get your teeth in line, then your canines can actually work like they're supposed to and guide the rest of your teeth because he's grinding down all of his anteriors. And so I think it's really also important, not only aesthetically, but just like preserving the occlusion. And I think people forget that just because they didn't get it done when they were 13 doesn't mean you can't do it now. And you're preserving the lifetime of those teeth as well.
And I remember when I got an MBA, I had just finished MBA. So I was flying, I lectured 32 to 64 times a year. It took a pandemic to get me off the road. And now they're all trying to get me back on the road. And I'm like, forget it, dude. I can speak to 10 times as many people like this than going to your course. But I'll never forget, I was flying back and I was all high because I finally got my MBA. And this old man was sitting there next to me. I flew so much, I was always bumped into first class, never paid. And he's sitting there going, he's all sad and drinking. He's like, I got served my notice. He goes, this company is so evil. And I said, what do they do? And he said, well, they're good. Since I'm old, they're letting me go, and they're going to replace me as some young dumbass because he's got an MBA. And I said, well, how long have you worked for this company? He said, 25 years. I said, in 25 years, you couldn't figure out that they valued MBAs? I said, I bet every Monday night you went to bowling and Monday Night Football and you did all. I said, I'm a dentist full-time
Mm-hmm.
dentist, and I went back to night school and got my MBA. So you worked
Mm-hmm.
for a company for 25 years, didn't know they like MBAs, and you couldn't do Mondays and Wednesdays evenings or Saturdays and get an MBA. So now the company's the evil bad guy because you graduated 30 years ago and they're upgrading their deal. I say, it's always
I
you
think,
make your own
yeah,
luck.
it's always, it's making sure not to play that victim role and understanding that you have to continue to progress or you will be kicked out of business. I mean, look at what happened to Kodak, what happened to all these major, businesses and companies. If you don't adapt, then you die.
And Xerox, all of that
Yeah.
technology was stolen by Steve Jobs. I mean, that guy never invented a mouse. He didn't do just that. All those guys out there in Silicon Valley, they'd show the guys at Xerox. They'd say, "Well, what does this have to do with a copier?" And they're like, "I don't know, man. It's a last and final question. I'll let you go. I keep seeing something on your arm. Is that what is that on your arm?
It's a tattoo. I got a couple last weekend. It's a cross.
And
like
what is that? And what does that mean? What kind of cross?
I don't know. I was raised Orthodox Christian. So that big church, St. George Cathedral on the east side.
Yeah.
It's just a cross. I think, I definitely value all. I think religions are I think they're a cultural way to revere a higher power. And I think that each culture has a beautiful meaning. This is, a very cultural thing to me. I was raised in the church. I also really love Buddha. I have some sage over there. I have another tattoo that's like completely not even, Christian, but I think this is just something special to me. So.
Well, it'd be special to me if you upgrade to the fat, happy Buddha, not that skinny Buddha with hair. And my gosh. All right. But hey, man, it was an honor to podcast you.
It was a pleasure. And, thank you so much, Howard.
Long live Wichita. And shout out to, do you know Hal back there, who's going to be the president of the Pierre Fichard Academy?
I don't know, but I will give them all your love.
Right out of Wichita, Kansas. And, anyway, great podcast. You tell your father he did a damn good job. And
Thank you.
I'll see you next time.
I appreciate you.
When you come out, when you finish your book or you come out with another course, you got a free invite to come back to the show.
I appreciate you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you for what you're doing. I appreciate your podcast.
All right. Have a great day.
You too.